Hey guys, it's your average middle-aged American back again with another video. This one is going to be about the Beast of Gévaudan. I think that's how you pronounce it. Just did one on the same subject for my new French friend there. And I thought maybe I'd get another perspective. This guy has 1 million followers. Seems to be a history guy. So we'll see what he has to say about it, and we'll see if there's any differences between the two stories. Because I'm nothing if not thorough. Besides, look at his lighting and all his hats. You know he knows what he's doing. You know he's a history guy. Either that or he has a serious hat problem. One or the other. I'm going to go with a history guy.
Hi, I'm the history guy. I have a degree in history and I love history. And if you love history too, this is the channel for you. Between 1764 and 1767, a huge beast terrorized the population in an 80-kilometer square area of southeastern France. It was described as being as big as a calf, with a huge maw full of razor-sharp teeth, and in a 3-year period, it killed more than 100 people. And if you think that this is just a myth or a legend, it is not. There were dozens of witnesses. The attacks were well documented.
Yeah, the other one didn't say hundreds of people. The other one pointed out a few people. I would have assumed it would have been like a dozen. This guy's talking about hundreds. It's a big difference.
Whatever it was something real. And while the attacks stopped in 1767, the beast itself was never positively identified. The beast...
And that's also different, because the other one said it was killed and stuffed and buried. See, this is the problem with these stories like this. You know, you're going to get different variations. So now we're going to find out, well, it really wasn't an animal. It was a crazy man in a furry costume. But in all seriousness, there's a big difference between never being found and the hero killing it. Real big difference. There's a big difference between naming 6, 7, 8 people and talking about hundreds. Big difference.
Beast of Gévaudan is an enduring mystery of history.
Gévaudan.
And it deserves to be remembered. The first attack occurred in the summer of 1764. A young woman who was watching a herd of cattle was charged by a huge beast, the likes of which she had never seen before. But the bulls in the herd managed to fend it off with their horns, and so she escaped with mere scratches. But she described something fantastic, a beast with a huge broad chest, with a massive head and neck. Its ears were on top of its head and they stuck straight up, looking almost like horns. Its greyhound-like maw was full of massive fangs. Its tail, unlike a wolf, was long and thin. It had huge claws and it moved extremely fast, and when it ran, it could leap enormous distances in each leap. The beast attacked dozens of more people in the coming months. It seemed to favor women and children, but it even attacked full-grown adult males. It would often attack people that were alone in the field watching flocks or herds, but it also came into towns and took victims mere feet from their own doorsteps. It favored attacking the head, and most of the victims that were found had their throats torn out. Sometimes it would carry the bodies away, and virtually all of the bodies were at least partially eaten. In these horrific scenes, the beast would sometimes leave behind just rent limbs and body parts. And there were so many attacks that people became convinced that there must be more than one beast, because some of the reports made it sound like there was more than one attack occurring at the same time. Astoundingly, in October of 1764, 2 hunters claimed to have come upon the beast and shot it with their muskets at close range several times. Each time the beast staggered, but astoundingly got up again and continued to move away, eventually escaping into the woods. And they were not the only ones who claimed to have shot the beast at close range, only to have it get up and walk away. In 1765, the story reached the attention of the king, Louis XV, who sent several known wolf hunters as well as his own master of the hunt to hunt down and put an end to the beast. They killed a lot of wolves and at least one extraordinarily large wolf. But it turned out not to be the beast. The attacks resumed. At least a dozen more people died in 1765. The beast continued to terrorize the region clear until June of 1767, when a large hunt was organized by a local nobleman and a local farmer named Jean Chastel shot another huge wolf. The attack stopped, and so it was assumed that that was the Beast of Gévaudan, and Jean Chastel was a local hero. It is a terrifying story, but were all these attacks really just the result of one extraordinarily large wolf? Well, there are lots of theories about the Beast of Gévaudan, but three are most credible. The one that is most commonly accepted is that these attacks were simply the attacks of packs of wolves, and that public hysteria exaggerated the description of the animals. Wolves were known to attack livestock in Europe and people as well. Wolves were responsible for at least thousands of deaths in Europe in the 16th, 17th, and 18th century. But the patterns don't necessarily fit. Wolves generally attack weaker prey and very rarely attack, say, full-grown humans who could defend themselves. An analysis of the attacks that were attributed to the Beast of Gévaudan showed that that beast attacked adults at a rate 6 times that of other known European wolf attacks. And it would be extraordinarily strange for just wolves in one area to so change their behavior for just that 1-3-year.
Not if they had a disease, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be rabies. I'm sure there's other mind-altering diseases that an animal can get in a certain area, and then they either die off or, you know, finally overcome the disease. I mean, there's plenty of drugs that make humans a lot more aggressive. Maybe they came across some kind of berry, some kind of poison berry or hallucinogenic berry or something like that. I don't know. It's interesting.
Period of time. A second theory is that the beast might have been a hybrid of a wolf and a dog, possibly a mastiff, and that the beast might have been actually trained by someone to attack people. Some descriptions make it sound like maybe the beast was even outfitted with armor that was made from boar's hide, which would explain why it could be shot and still run away. Also, if it was trained and directed by a human, that would explain why its targets were different than you would expect of normal wolf or dog attacks. And the suspicion falls on the hero farmer, Jean Chastel, who was known to own a very large red mastiff. Now, what his motive would have been is an interesting question, but he did become quite the hero when he supposedly killed the beast. Perhaps he was just a serial murderer who was covering up his own crimes, or maybe he...
Come on now. That was my theory, and I didn't know anything about this stuff.
orchestrated the entire thing in order to get assistance in eradicating wolves who would have been a threat to his livestock. A third theory was proposed recently by German naturalist Karl Hans Tocke. Tocke theorizes that the Beast of Gévaudan was in fact a subadult male lion. That explains some things that the wolf or wolf-dog explanations just don't explain, like how it could leap long distances as it ran, or its use of claws in attack, something that wolves and dogs normally do not do. And while a peasant of the 18th century likely knew what a lion was, the pictures that they had seen, the drawings would likely have been of full-grown adult male lions with full manes. And a subadult lion looks quite different and might not necessarily have been recognized.
Especially a female.
The pattern seems to fit. A subadult lion has a dark streak down its back. Of course, the long and thin tail sounds more like a lion than a wolf. Subadult lions also sometimes have spots. And the attack patterns and the victims that were chosen also are more fitting for...
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that, if you're in fear, you don't have perfect lighting, the animal's on the move, I mean, you could mistake that for a dog. I mean, look at the one on the right. That definitely could be mistaken as a dog from that angle. And you got a lot more time to look at it in this picture than you would if you were standing 25 feet from it, or 8 or 10 meters from it.
A lion than they would be for a wolf. But if the Beast of Gévaudan was a lion, how did it get to France? Well, Taki's theory there is that it escaped from a menagerie. See, in the 18th century, there was a lot of interest in natural sciences, and so it was quite popular for wealthy people to have collections of exotic animals. The Beast of Gévaudan was likely brought to France as a lion cub that escaped. And
yeah, I mean, in America, there's so many animals in America that are not native to America that, if you go into, like in Texas, I think in Texas, there's more tigers as pets in Texas than like the whole rest of the world combined or something. So, there's all kinds of stuff. People are always smuggling in even endangered species. If you go in the Everglades in Florida, there's all kinds of pythons and all kinds of stuff that were, came from other countries that aren't supposed to be here.
The terror of this particular explanation is that means that the Beast of Gévaudan, who killed more than 100 people, was the result of human carelessness. The Beast of Gévaudan is an enduring mystery, and as there is no known genetic material that can be definitively tied to the beast, we might never have a full answer. But maybe exactly what the beast was is the wrong question. Maybe the more important question is what the story of the Beast of Gévaudan says about history at the time. The Beast of Gévaudan was the first real national news story, and it was greatly amplified by a nascent news media that reveled in gory depictions of the attacks in crudely illustrated printed broadsheets. And so it is more than the story of an animal, it's the story of people's perceptions of the attacks, skewed by the politics of an unsettled era, where the power structures and traditional modes of thought were in constant and sometimes violent transition. It came in the middle of the Age of Enlightenment and following the scientific revolution, and it represented the juxtaposition, the conflict between superstition and science, and people that were...
Listen, that's done today. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in America, the media has gone from being a news outlet to entertainment. So anything that can be glorified or horrified or exaggerated or anything else, you'll find it on the news, and they'll just play it over and over and over and over and over again. It could be a representation of 1/100th of 1%, but it'll be on the news for 75% of the news for weeks. That's the way it is. It's part of spreading agendas. This isn't, alt-right or alt-left or anything else. This is just reality. Depending on the station, depending on the channel, you're going to get this exaggeration, this fear-inducing, / entertainment version of the news nowadays. So it really hasn't changed. Maybe in the 60s and 70s, with Walter Cronkite and, some of these guys, maybe Dan Rather or something, I don't know. They cared more about the truth than sensationalizing everything, but not now. So I could certainly see it happening back then, where you just had to believe whatever your leaders told you, When you're playing telephone, so by the time the news gets down to you, it's some version of what was originally said, which may not even be 100% accurate to start with. So I get that. I truly get that.
Gripped in the conflicting ideas of a new scientific rationalism, but also an obsession with the occult. It represented the complexity of the relationships between the nobility and the peasantry at a time when those very relationships were under question, literally on the doorstep of the French Revolution. And it came at a period when religion and religious understanding was in flux. And as organized religion, which had caused many of the wars of the previous century, was being rejected, there was still a belief in morality where God punished evil, perhaps even by sending a terrifying beast. And as the world was thrust into the modern era, it might not matter whether the Beast of Gévaudan was a wolf or a dog or a lion, because the sum of the people's fears at the time could have transformed any of those into the terrifying Beast of Gévaudan.
All right, guys. Well, there's another perspective on it. And it makes perfect sense to me. You know, basically anything that can't be explained always gets rolled into religion. And this isn't a discussion about religion. But it is true that if it's something that just can't be explained, it's a miracle or it's a punishment or whatever. So a little different than the first story, similar obviously, but some different takes. I like seeing different perspectives on things. So I'm glad I did the second video as well. All right. That's all I got for that subject, I think, unless somebody's got something really out there different involving serious proof of a werewolf. I think we can put this one to bed. I'm not sure if I'm going to visit this place when I go to France. I'll have to think about it. Seems like there's a lot of other places I could go and not get eaten. All right, if you're new to the channel, it's anything and everything that interests me as an average middle-aged American. They're gearing up for retirement, traveling internationally, learning about other cultures, learning more about my own country. If it interests me, it's going to end up in the channel, organized in playlist. I appreciate you subscribing. Doesn't hurt you. It helps me tremendously. Thumbs up is also greatly appreciated. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks for everything. Take care, guys.